I would rather die fighting on my feet than to live constantly kneeling. But I don't make $7.5 million a year either, though. So there's that.
You are Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma State Cowboys, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Howdy, y'all, and hello, all. Welcome back to Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily stop for all things Cowboy and Cowgirl related. Thankfully, we've got some basketball to talk about, but we're going to save some of that for tomorrow because today, it's the Sunday Not So Fun Day show. So, we're just going to have a little heart-to-heart. Thank you guys very much for making this your daily dose of Oklahoma State coverage here on Locked On Oklahoma State. My name is Cody Stovall. I will be the captain on this mini boat ride we take together here. Yeah, I would rather die fighting on my feet than to live being forced down to my knees. Maybe that's the old football player in me coming out. Maybe it's the old 11 Bravo in me coming out. Or maybe, just maybe, it's just the fact that I have flipping fracking eyeballs, y'all. If you went to work, actually, you know what? Follow me down memory lane real quick. I'm going to tell you a little story. So I took a job at one point in time, some years back. My specialty, obviously, was in the oil field, and I got to do a lot of things in the oil and gas industry. And then I had this company that sold high-end industrial cleaning equipment, right? They specialized in things like restaurants and public works type of stuff. But they brought me in to capitalize on the oil field market because they knew their equipment would work on oil rigs. They just didn't have an inroad to get onto the oil rig. So they brought me in to do exactly that. Not only did I do that, but I exceeded expectations initially. And then about a year later, the oil took a little bit of a dip. And if you know anything about the oil and gas industry, they do kind of shut down here and there, especially as the colder months start to creep in. But this was a price thing. Barrel costs were pretty high, so rigs were stacking out. And they're like, okay, Cody, you're going to have to adapt to sell to, nursing homes and restaurants and hospitals and things of that nature. And it's not that I probably could have, but that's not what I was brought in to do. And so I really, honestly, I didn't have a big desire and learning all of a sudden how to start, converting all this stuff to nursing homes and restaurants and so on and so forth. So what did the guy have to do? He had to let me go. I've only been fired 2 times in my entire life, and that's one of them. And, at first I was very, very irritated. I was like, how could they do that? I raised their profit margins by X, Y, and Z. The percentages went through the roof. I got them in new states. How could this be happening? I was in denial. But then after I sat down and realized, it's like, wait a second. I didn't live up to my end of the bargain. I needed to adapt and overcome to try to go from the oil field to restaurants. Was it ever going to be my specialty? No. Could I have maybe possibly done it? Maybe. But I was too stubborn. I was too set in my ways. I knew that I had several other opportunities. So there's no point in me at that point in time in my life to just completely overhaul what I'd been doing to try to, change. So I didn't. And guess what I got? Walking papers. All those new jobs I landed, all those states that I helped this company get into, all the money I made, it meant nothing because I wasn't able or willing to adapt and overcome to what the new normal was supposed to be. And they should have fired me because I didn't adapt. And instead of taking accountability, there were times that I was just like, what happened was. But, it's funny. You look back later in your life and you're like, dang, Cody, that was stupid of you. Again, even if I would have adapted and I would have been, good at the new side of that job, it still wasn't necessarily for me. I didn't really want any part in messing with nursing homes and restaurants and all that kind of stuff. It just wasn't for me. But they fired me because I did not continue to adapt. I didn't continue to produce the same as I did in the beginning. So all the new stuff I helped make happen, it didn't matter. If you were at your job, or let's say you got a job and they brought you in just to do something that hadn't been done in a very long time, and then you do that. Well, okay, now you have a bigger client base. Now you have more money coming in, but now you have to make more people happy. So what do you have to do? You have to keep, overhauling your operation to make sure it's continuously getting better. If you become stagnant, there is a point in time in your career where you won't have that career anymore. If we apply this to Oklahoma State University, we dealt with it for a long time with Travis Ford. And he could recruit like nobody's business. So we just kept giving him the edge. And then finally, it was just too much. So there is a precedent being set. We fired golf coaches before because the expectation is to play for national titles in golf and in wrestling. And if that's not really something you're seeing, or at least seeing progress, then, eventually you're going to get written up. You're going to get some walking papers, pink slips, whatever. Eventually it's going to happen. So why do we as a fan base always give this just huge blanket pass for Mike Gundy? Like, we try to stress accountability. Well, actually, Oklahoma State University and Gundy stress accountability. Yet, if you watched his post-game interview, if you're like me, you may or may not have wanted to throw your phone through a wall. Here's my imitation. You ready? Here we go. Yeah, turnovers were just, can't do that. We can't block anybody. You can't do that. See, for those of you on the podcast that couldn't see, I just reclined my chair back in gangster mode. Kind of like Mike Gundy did in his press conference. He looks like he has zero cares in the world. He looks like he coached like we were up by 30 the whole game. But if you look back at the film, it's because he did coach like we were up by 30 the whole game. And, I really tried to avoid this to some degree, because on this show, since I've been blessed to have this job, the only two shows I've done that didn't exceed previous shows were my two shows where I dared to criticize Mike Gundy. But I'm not going to hide from a fact. It is statistically provable, and it's easily verifiable how many times we have just allowed mediocrity from our coaching staff. And even if heads roll, which heads do need to roll, right? There's no justification for keeping the O-line in the situation that it is. Dickey was a legend at K-State. He's not here. It's not working. Kids aren't connecting. Ask Josh Sills. He'll tell you the same exact thing. So he's got to go. Okay, McIndoe. We haven't brought in a tight end that stayed on campus and caught a touchdown until Quentin Stewart during Bedlam. Is that enough to save his job as one touchdown catch over a kid that you actually recruited since 2014? Sufficient? I don't think so. And people are clamoring for Casey Dunn. Is Casey Dunn really the problem? He is a problem to some degree, right? But does he have the decision-making process to decide whether we're kicking field goals, whether we're punting, whether we're going for it, whether we're not? Are we running the ball up the middle on 3rd and 18 over and over? Some of that has to be undone, right? Some of the play calling ideas have nothing to do with Gundy. Gundy is the preventative measure from, I don't know. Can we achieve the very top of the mountain? Have we reached a ceiling? I think that a large contingent of the fan base, or a decent contingent of the fan base, thought so in around 2018, 2019. I was in that camp. And then I saw Gundy adapt. And I saw Gundy overcome quite a bit in 2020. And then you have a different scenario coming in 2021. But if you go back and look at the games, or even the highlights, how many times in 2021 did he just scoot everything down the road, and thank goodness we had a good defense. So that's the thing, is like, in order for us to reach the pinnacle of our capabilities, that means our players just have to be so daggone good that they can play around the coaching deficiencies. Is Oklahoma State University going to be uh, good enough on a year in and out, in and out, in and out, in and out basis for that to be the case? Well, no, not when we're continuously recruiting in the mid 30s, 40s range. I do believe in the body by glass. I do believe in a lot of things that we're doing, right? I believe that Gundy obviously has a lot of abilities, but I'm also very aware that this whole notion that, and we've heard Gundy say this in the past, he would say that, every 3 or 4 years, we're going to possibly be good enough to make a run at something. Okay, so if we're almost 20 years into this darn deal, at what point in time does the expectation of the head man grow? Because you and I both know if he was at any other university anywhere in the United States of America and he's 3-15 against, the big paycheck style of game, you don't have a job, at least not at that school. And then if he goes to the next school and he goes 1 for 8 against his rival, is he going to keep that job? Probably not. So why are we the only fan base in the country, other than maybe Iowa and Kirk Ferentz, that are okay with mediocrity, above mediocrity? Oh, good year. Sweet. Awesome. Above mediocrity. Oh, good year. Sweet. Yet again. It's just, it's indefensible and inexcusable. I can tell you one thing. You can't give up where you get info. But what I can say is, mark my words, write this down on this date at this time. The performance that we just put forth in Norman, Oklahoma will cost us some transfers. I hate to say that. But this is the part of the fandom that we should, I think, address collectively, right? Is we eventually have to be okay with our standards being higher. You know what I mean? And the question is, when is that time? Because, 7, 8 win, possibly 9 win season. It's not, it's definitely nothing to scoff at. But if you're at a point that you're getting some Shetrons and you're getting some Colin Olivers, don't you think that it's very easy in today's age that it's not about playing time, mind you. This I know for a fact, because some of the people considering leaving do play quite a bit. So why would that happen? Because with our Cowboy culture, I even thought that we were above, having a lot of major transfer type of issues. So when you have players that play, and there's rumors that they could potentially do something else somewhere else, do you get mad at the recruit or the kid? I mean, some people do. Is that fair? I don't think about it if you're looking at it from your kid's perspective. If my son went to, Oshu's a perfect example. It's my dream and his to end up going to Oklahoma State, my oldest boy. But let's say he goes there and they have a completely different philosophy and a completely different style. And it's not really going to be a point that he can be used effectively. As much as I love Oklahoma State and I bleed orange and I always will, no matter what happens, guys, we could lose by 137 points and I'll still be bleeding orange. I'll still be loyal and true. But I'm not gonna sit up here and blow smoke up anybody's wazoo. It's a tough pill to swallow. Okay, go ask all your OU friends, right? What they think about my Gundy. 99% of OU fans are gonna be like, oh yeah, he's pretty cool, pretty good. He's all right. And then if you ask OU fans how they feel about Les Miles, 99% of them are going to say, I hated him. He was a jackwagon. I couldn't stand him in Stillwater, X, Y, and Z. Okay, why is that? Because we've been significantly better over Gundy's tenure than any point in time, really, in Les Miles' tenure, correct? Yeah, but it's because, and I don't think this is a good thing. That's my point. OU fans are fine with Mike Gundy because they know that he's probably going to do something every single year they play, no matter who's better, to do something to give OU the game. So OU fans, they love Mike Gundy. They hope that we keep Mike Gundy forever and a day, even if they were not leaving for the SEC, right? Why do they hate Les Miles? Two reasons. Number one, Les Miles beat him back-to-back, for one. But the most important part is Les Miles had one agenda and one agenda only every single Bedlam. And that was to get in a bloody mess of a fist fight. Les Miles didn't give 13 hoots if they won or not. Les Miles only cared about making sure that every single player on that OU roster knew they were just in a dogfight. And they felt every minute of it, every second of the game. And when you have that kind of dog in you, you have that kind of fight, it typically shows up in the win-loss records. Not always, right? But when you have that talent gap slowly shrink and shrink and shrink and shrink, what makes you think in this era of transfer and NIL money that you can continue to play not to lose and inspire confidence in your players to stick around? Like, you know, I think Vince Lombardi is no slouch. He said, one of his famous quotes is, winning isn't everything. It's the only thing. Why do players come to Oklahoma State University instead of a Texas or an Alabama where they can get those big old dollar bill signs? It's because the culture and the dog in the fight and Rob Glass and the community and the family orientation that we run everything off of. Okay? That's fair. So to get people on campus because of the way you do things, and then once you get those kids on campus, they physically watch you give up on games. You, again, guys, when I say you, I'm not talking about you. I'm saying in third person. When you hear Cody Stovall say you on this channel, just envision me talking to a Mike Gundy. But you can't sit here and tell me that you get these players to campus and then they watch this stuff take place. And then you see the effort drop. You see the intensity drop. Guys, OU came out from the very get-go, from the first snap of the game. They were ready to rock and roll. We looked like we prepared for Valdosta, Savannah, Northridge Academy State. Spencer Sanders over here trying to do his best Alex Gate impersonations. And then the post-game show. I won't do the lean back in my recliner thing again because I don't want to be too far away from the mic. But excuses are like, yeah, I mean, you get the drift. That's all I heard. That's all I heard. Is yeah, we're just too injured, and yeah, or too many turnovers, and yeah, Spencer didn't play very well, and yeah, our old lineman can't block anybody. Guys, how many times in the last 2 years have we heard those words come out of Mike Gundy's mouth? Oh, yeah, offensive line come block nobody, and it's never Spencer Sanders' fault. It's always offensive line's fault or tight end's fault or running backs missing blocks' fault. We're a university that attracts a massive amount of very successful recruits because of our discipline, our integrity, our morals, our internal values, and used to be the dog in the fight. We were never going to out-recruit Texas in football. We knew that. We were probably never going to out-recruit OU consistently in football. We know that. So we get the 2-3-star dudes that want it more, right? That work harder. This is all true. But if you're a kid that comes to Oklahoma State University because you want to work harder, or maybe you thought you were undervalued, so on and so forth, and then you work your tail off, and then you feel that your coach doesn't have your back when it comes to being aggressive enough to make sure we try to win, probably not going to stay. Yeah, this one hurts. And what hurts the most is watching Gundy's interview, because when you watch his interview, that tells you he himself is not going to take any personal accountability for that game. You can it's extremely evident. He already has it in his mind before the interview even started that we're too injured, we're too young, we turn the ball over too many times, we don't know how to run the ball very well, our offensive line can't block very well. All right, so if that's the case, whose job is it to manage that? Right? And if it's your job to manage that, why did we hear the exact same things come out of your mouth last season while we're on this epic run? It's just you can't keep giving the same excuses for 18 years. Oh, we don't have the right, too deep, and when we do have the right too deep, we're too banged up, and when we're not too banged up, our quarterback doesn't play right, our running backs, aren't finding seams. I refuse to be dishonest and disingenuous to the university. And, I feel like this is my calling, is to do this job, because I firmly believe that there's not very many people on this planet that know a lot more than me about Oklahoma State University. That'll never change. My fandom, that's one good part about being an OSU fan for this amount of time, is, you're used to, unfortunately, being let down. But when do we stop joking about that as a fan base? Like, well, yeah, we're good every year. We're good every year till Bedlam. I've joked about it too. But when is it that we stop joking about it all the time? Like it's not a very big deal. How do we expect to keep getting big time Oklahoma high school kids when they can visibly see physically that Gundy just doesn't really care a lot about Bedlam? He said it 1,000 times. It's just another game, next game on schedule. That's coach speak. You hear that a lot. But Gundy believes that crap, y'all. Gundy does not have any animosity whatsoever towards Bedlam, which means when we lose, he doesn't give 13 hoots, right? It is what it is. And it just, you can't tell me otherwise, because you watched the interview. It wasn't just hearing him. It was visibly watching him. He's just so over secure, I think is the right word. And again, I'm not saying we should fire Gundy. But what I am saying is somebody, somewhere, somehow, someday, sometime, some way has to get through to the guy that we have to start playing to win. This is 18 years of playing not to lose. At this point in time, it's more than a habit. It's more than a trend. It's almost a certifiable guarantee. And, Bedlam matters to us more than OU fans. That's true. And it's because of the stain that we had to watch for years and years and years of us just not even having a chance. So when do we stop burying our head in the sand and start holding the head man accountable? Again, not asking for him to go anywhere, but I'm asking for Chad Weiber to have a come to Jesus meeting and put something in his contract, some sort of clause that just says, hey, boss, if you would at least pretend to care about Bedlam, and if you would at least pretend to, try a little bit harder to get prepared for that game, that would be great. And for those of you that are like, well, OU's going away anyway, so it's not going to matter anymore. I think that's exactly what Gundy wants. I think Gundy can't wait for OU to be gone because then he won't hear the negativity about his Bedlam record all the time. And to me, that's the problem. It's not that he can't adapt. It's not that he won't adapt. It's that he gets passes because we're better than we used to be. My only thought is, guys, can we at least think about the possibilities if we had a coach that was as aggressive as Chris Kleiman or as aggressive as Lance Leipold or as even aggressive as Dave Aranda? Could you imagine? That's my point. We are happy with the amount of success that Mike Gundy has given us, okay? But why are we content? Content and happiness aren't the same thing. And in my opinion, if we keep holding this level of content, we're not going to be very happy with the recruiting effects that it's going to have. Something's got to give. Something's got to change. It's hard. It's hard to put your finger on it because there's a lot of people that just, I don't know, don't seem to care as much as others. And that's mind-blowing to me. It really is, honest to God's truth. So let me know in the comments down below, guys. I want to hear what you have to say. Let me hear your opinions. Is there something contractually we could, put in Gundy's contract that if you have X number of punts and field goals in a game, you get fined $500,000 or you lose $500,000 or something, right? Again, I'm not saying he should necessarily go anywhere, but I'm definitely not saying we should continue to keep being okay with this year after year after year. It's hard pill to swallow, right? But it as an O State fan, this feeling, unfortunately, is slightly common to us. So it's not a foreign entity inside our bodies, but it's a frustrating one because it's unnecessary. It is unnecessary to have this Bedlam record. It is unnecessary to only have 2 conference title appearances. It's unnecessary to keep having 40th ranked recruiting classes. We've got the facilities. We've got the winning track record. We've got the pedigree. We've got the environment that you can't find but a few other places. But we're lacking the coaching accountability. And this is the lack of accountability and adjusting. Like, if it's been 18 years of the same thing, can we really expect it to change and get better? Or are we going to continue to be the cardiac Cowboys forever and a day just because Gundy took us off of the trash pile? Let me know. I would like to hear your opinions. Tomorrow we get to break down some of the baseball, basketball stuff. Obviously, we'll break down some of the film as well. And we get to dive into preparation week for West Virginia. Another game that we should absolutely win. But, who knows? All I'm saying is, just think about this, y'all. This game will have an effect at the end of the season. Mark my words. I hate to say it, but I know it's true. I love you all. God bless. Go Pokes. I can't wait to see the comments. We'll continue this dialogue, and we will have a fun one tomorrow, baby. Go Pokes. Thank you for tuning in to Locked On Oklahoma State. I'll see you tomorrow.